Kindly help us to like, comment and subscribe to the channel for more of this. Emma should have walked away the moment Olivia, Nicholas's mother, slid the manila envelope across the table with that smug little smile. But she didn't. She stayed because she loved Nicholas and thought he was different from them. She thought he saw her for who she was. Not just a girl without a fancy last name or family fortune. He was wrong. When Emma met Nicholas, she was already doing well. She had a steady job in software engineering, a lovely apartment in San Diego, and her finances were solid. She wasn't rich, but she wasn't struggling either. Nicholas, on the other hand, had grown up with wealth. His parents, Olivia and Richard, owned a real estate company and spoiled him endlessly. He lived in a house they bought him in La Jolla. They paid his tuition, gave him a cushy job and expected him to marry someone who matched their standard. From the beginning, Emma could feel their disapproval. Olivia would ask loaded questions about her background and family, her tone always dripping with judgment. Richard barely acknowledged her presence. They weren't openly rude, just cold and distant enough to make her feel small. But Nicholas always made her feel important. "I don't care what they think," he'd whisper, wrapping his arms around her. "I love you." And like a fool she believed him. When he proposed, Emma was overjoyed. She hoped this would finally soften his parents toward her. Instead, at what was supposed to be a celebratory dinner, they blindsided her. Olivia poured herself a glass of wine, smiled tightly and said, "Before we move forward, we need to discuss something important." Emma blinked as Richard slid a folder across the table. "A prenup?" she asked softly. "Just a formality," Olivia replied with a wave of her hand. "It's to protect Nicholas's assets. In the event of a divorce, you'll leave with what you came in with. Nothing more." Emma turned to Nicholas, expecting him to speak up, to defend her. But he just stared down at his plate. "This is Nicholas's house," Richard said flatly. "His inheritance, his future. We're just protecting what's his." Emma had never asked them for a dime. Never hinted she wanted anything from them. But they saw her as some gold digger. "I'm sure you understand," Olivia added with that fake smile. Emma understood all too well. She should have walked away then. She should have stood up and said, "You can keep your house and your prenup." But she didn't. She signed the papers because she loved Nicholas and convinced herself it didn't matter. "I don't want their money anyway," she had thought. Olivia and Richard exchanged pleased glances. The first year of marriage was good. The second was tolerable. But by the third, the cracks were impossible to ignore. Nicholas changed, or maybe Emma finally saw who he truly was. He stopped trying. He dismissed her concerns with a wave. "You're being dramatic," he'd mutter. Worse, he started sounding like his mother. "You're wearing that?" he'd ask. "Have you thought about Botox?" Emma was still working full-time, still contributing equally to their life. But it was always his house, his money, his life. And she was just there. His parents didn't help. Olivia and Richard would drop by unannounced, complain about how Emma decorated, act like she was just borrowing their son's home. "You're lucky Nicholas takes care of you," Olivia would say with that same smug grin. Emma was tired of fighting for a place in a house where she'd never be anything more than a guest. Then everything changed. Her uncle passed away. They hadn't been close and she hadn't expected anything. But a week later she got a call from his lawyer. Her uncle had left her everything. $22 million. Emma sat stunned. She told Nicholas that evening. He didn't ask if she was okay. His first words were, "Wait, how much?" That was the moment something inside Emma shifted. From the moment she said the number out loud, everything changed. Nicholas stared at her like he was seeing her for the first time. "That's incredible," he finally said, his voice suddenly warmer. The next day Olivia called. For the first time in 6 years she invited Emma to lunch. Just her. Over salads and wine, Olivia smiled and said, "I always knew you had potential." Emma nearly choked. Richard, who'd never shown any interest in her career or ambitions, now wanted to talk investments. He asked if she had plans for the money and hinted that she should consider supporting the family business. Nicholas became strangely attentive. He held her hand again. Talked about vacations. Brought up real estate. "We should invest together," he said. "Start something. Build wealth for the family." Emma let them celebrate. She smiled through their compliments. Let them believe they had finally accepted her. Because while they were busy clinking champagne glasses and dreaming of what her money could do for them, she was meeting with a lawyer. She pulled out the prenup they had so proudly made her sign years earlier. Line by line her lawyer reviewed it. They protected Nicholas, the lawyer said, but they forgot to protect him from you. Emma blinked. What? The lawyer smiled. They didn't include any clause that gives him rights to money you earn, or inherit, after the marriage. Is $22 million? It's all yours. If you file for divorce he doesn't get a cent. Emma almost laughed. The very document that was meant to strip her of everything, now shielded her completely. She said nothing to Nicholas. Not yet. She played her part perfectly. Let him think they were in love again. Let his parents think she was finally one of them. Olivia started calling her, dear. Richard started offering to mentor her. Nicholas booked a trip to Maui, just for us, he said with a wink. We should talk about remodeling the kitchen too. Maybe expand the patio. It'll add value. Then he paused and added, we could even put some of the money into Dad's company. It just makes sense to keep it in the family. Emma nodded slowly, sipping her wine. Not once did he ask what she wanted to do with the inheritance. Because in his mind it wasn't hers. It was theirs. No worse. It was his. And that's when it hit her. Nicholas had never really loved her. Not truly. She had been convenient. Good on paper. Polished enough to present to the world, quiet enough to control. But now that she had value, now that she came with dollar signs, they all decided she was worth acknowledging. It wasn't love. It was possession. So Emma smiled at his plans. Played along with Olivia's brunch dates. Laughed at Richard's jokes. Meanwhile she opened a brand new bank account under her name. Transferred her inheritance there. No joint access. No links to Nicholas. Then she met with a forensic accountant. Quietly she began separating everything. Banking, taxes, legal protections. We'll need proof of what you brought into the marriage versus what you earned or inherited after, her lawyer said. It'll help us make it airtight. I want it airtight, she replied. I want no mistakes. Step by step, Emma disentangled herself. She found a beachfront property in La Jolla, her dream home. Paid for in full under her name only. She lined up all the paperwork, filed everything away. All she needed now was the final push. And as if on cue, Nicholas gave it to her. He started staying out later. Making excuses. Claiming late meetings. Then one night as he showered, his phone lit up beside her. She glanced at it. One message stood out. Can't wait to see you again tonight. Last time was amazing. Lucy. Emma sat still. No rage. No heartbreak. Just a cold clarity. She tapped the message, scrolled. Months of texts. Photos. Reservations. Plans. He'd been seeing her for a long time, probably even before the inheritance. So that's your end game, she whispered. Secure the money, then leave me. But Emma wasn't going to confront him, not yet. Not when she had a better plan. She contacted a private investigator the next morning. I want evidence, she said firmly. Names, places, photos, video, everything. Within a week the investigator delivered. Photos of Nicholas kissing Lucy in a hotel lobby. Video of them holding hands at a rooftop bar. Receipts, timestamps, the whole affair laid out like a perfectly packaged betrayal. Emma scrolled through the files, her face calm. She didn't cry. Didn't scream. She just nodded. Perfect, she whispered. She sent the folder straight to her lawyer. Are we ready? She asked. The lawyer smiled. Oh, we're more than ready. That evening Nicholas came home humming. He kissed her cheek like nothing was wrong, poured himself a glass of whiskey and started talking about his dad's latest business pitch. We'd be stupid not to invest now, he said. Emma said nothing. She just reached into the drawer beside her, pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. What's this? Nicholas asked, eyebrows raised. Divorce papers, she said calmly. He laughed. You're joking. I'm not. His smile faded. He opened the envelope, scanned the papers and his face turned pale. Wait, you realize you get nothing, right? We signed a prenup. Emma reached into her bag and pulled out her own copy. She flipped to the marked page and tapped it. He stared at it. What is this? He asked, though he already knew. It's the clause your parents forgot to include, she said. The one that says you get nothing from anything I received during the marriage. That $22 million? Untouchable. He flipped through the pages, eyes wild. This isn't fair. You're right, she said. It never was. But you were so focused on protecting yourself, you didn't think to protect yourself from me. She stood. You and your parents made sure I'd leave with nothing. But you forgot to make sure you'd get anything from me. He said nothing. Just sat there, frozen. Then she pulled out one more envelope. And you'll probably want to look at these too. She tossed the photos of him and Lucy on the table. High definition. Color. Time stamped. Nicholas didn't move. Didn't speak. His jaw flexed once, then went slack. Emma picked up her keys and her bag. You'll hear from my lawyer, she said as she walked out. She didn't look back. That night she didn't sleep in his house, the house they said would never be hers. She slept in her new beachfront home, one they didn't even know existed. Peaceful. Quiet. Hers. She expected to hear from him the next morning, but he said nothing. Instead, Olivia called. 3 missed calls. Then a 4th. Emma finally picked up. How could you do this to Nicholas? Olivia snapped before Emma even said hello. Do what? She asked, voice flat. Divorce him? Expose him? You're ruining his life. Olivia shouted. You're just bitter. Emma almost laughed. You're mad because I'm not letting you all profit off me? She asked. You forced me to sign a prenup. You made it clear I meant nothing. And now you're upset I'm leaving. You're destroying him. Olivia cried. No, Emma said calmly. He did that all on his own. There was silence. Then Olivia's voice dropped. You'll regret this. Emma stared at her phone, blinking once. We'll see, she murmured. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Then her lawyer called. They're contesting the prenup, she said. Emma sat up. They what? Claiming it was signed under unfair conditions. That it should be voided. Emma burst out laughing. Unfair. They wrote it. But she wasn't surprised. Olivia and Richard were used to getting their way. They had money, influence, and high-powered friends. Emma knew they wouldn't give up easily. I figured they'd try something, she said. That's why I had you double-check everything. Her lawyer nodded. And it's rock solid. But we're going to court. Emma didn't flinch. Then we go to court. She had one last move and she was ready to use it. She'd had her forensic accountant digging into the Anderson family company for weeks. And what he found was golden. Shady transactions. Fake invoices. Suspicious tax write-offs. Hidden accounts. All of it carefully documented. They're laundering money, the accountant said. And Nicholas? His name's on some of it. Emma took a deep breath. Let's use it. Her lawyer prepared everything. Emma didn't tell a soul, not even her closest friends. She didn't want sympathy or warnings. She wanted justice. The court date arrived on a Friday morning. The courtroom buzzed as Olivia and Richard swept in with their expensive lawyers and designer suits. Nicholas walked behind them, pale and tired. Emma walked in alone, then took her seat beside her calm, composed legal team. The judge arrived. The Anderson lawyers began their argument. The prenup was signed under undue pressure, they claimed. Emma didn't understand what she was signing. It wasn't fair. The judge looked unimpressed. And you wrote this agreement? He asked. Yes, their lawyer admitted. Then Emma's lawyer stood. Before we respond to that claim, Your Honor, she said, we have documents to submit. She placed a thick folder on the judge's bench. The judge opened it and began flipping through. Silence fell. Olivia's face drained of color. Richard looked like he'd stopped breathing. These are financial records, the judge muttered. Suspicious ones. Yes, Your Honor, Emma's lawyer said. The Anderson Company has been engaging in tax fraud, laundering, and financial misrepresentation for years. Nicholas Anderson is listed on several accounts tied to these crimes. I didn't know. Nicholas cried. I don't handle the money. But Olivia and Richard didn't even glance at him. They were staring at Emma, finally realizing just how badly they'd underestimated her. The hearing descended into chaos. The judge refused to toss the prenup. Emma's inheritance was declared fully protected. Nicholas had no claim to a cent. But the real bombshell was the financial investigation now opened against the Andersons. The courtroom emptied in stunned silence. Olivia's lawyer pulled her aside. Richard was already on the phone. Nicholas just stood there, frozen as his world collapsed. Emma walked out of that courtroom untouched. Wealthy. Free. Empowered. She remembered Olivia's words, "You'll regret this." But as she stepped into the sunlight outside the courthouse, she smiled to herself. "No, Olivia," she whispered. "You will." Nicholas tried calling that night. First he was furious. "You set me up. You destroyed my life," he yelled into her voicemail. Then he was begging. "Please, Emma, we can fix this. Just talk to me." The next message came with tears. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you." She didn't respond to any of them. Olivia and Richard, meanwhile, had their hands full. Investigators tore through their books. The IRS froze their accounts. Their reputation, once pristine, was in tatters. The lavish mansion in Rancho Santa Fe? Sold within weeks to cover legal bills. And Nicholas? With nowhere else to go, he moved back in with his disgraced parents. Except this time they weren't in a mansion. They were in a rented condo. No power. No influence. Just the wreckage they had built with their own greed. Certainly, Marlene. Here's the final continuation with paragraphs 21 to 29, bringing Emma's powerful story to a dramatic and satisfying conclusion. Emma, on the other hand, was flourishing. Her new beachfront home in La Jolla became her sanctuary. She took time to rest, to breathe, to remember who she was before all the manipulation and quiet humiliation. She started consulting again on her own terms. No company logos. No one taking credit for her work. Just her name, her rules, her legacy. And when people asked why she looked so radiant, she smiled and said, "Because I finally left the room they were trying to suffocate me in." Her days were filled with peace. Her evenings with ocean breeze. No Olivia telling her to be grateful. No Nicholas critiquing her outfit. No one telling her who she was supposed to be. Then one afternoon her phone rang again. A number she didn't recognize. She let it go to voicemail. 10 minutes later it rang again. Same number. Her curiosity got the better of her. She answered. "Hello." The voice on the other end was sharp. "Agri. You're a bitter witch, you know that?" Emma paused. "Lucy." "He promised me everything," Lucy snapped. "A house. The future. He said he was leaving you, that he'd have money, your money. But after your little courtroom show he has nothing." "Nothing." Emma let out a low breath. "And what do you expect me to do about that?" "He's your husband," Lucy shouted. "Correction," Emma said coolly. "Was." There was silence on the line. Then Lucy scoffed. "You ruined him. You knew what you were doing." Emma smiled to herself. "No, Lucy. I finally knew what I was worth. Big difference." Then she ended the call. She didn't think about Lucy again. Or Nicholas. Or any of them. They were just echoes from a chapter she had closed. But word traveled. Through mutual acquaintances, Emma heard everything. Olivia and Richard's business had collapsed. The fraud investigation turned into a full-blown federal case. Their friends, those polished country club types, ghosted them. No more invitations. No more charity galas. Their reputation was radioactive. Nicholas, once the golden boy, became the family's cautionary tale. No job. No income. No connections. His name was tied to too many shady transactions for any reputable company to touch. He had to sell his car. Then his watch. Then his designer suits. Emma never said a word. Never gloated. Never sought revenge online or in interviews. Her silence spoke louder than anything. And it killed them. Because people started asking, what did Emma know that we didn't? And slowly the story shifted. Emma wasn't the gold digger anymore. She was the one who walked away with her dignity, her money, and her peace. One day she was walking along the beach near her house when she ran into a former colleague from her early days in tech. "Emma? Is that you?" the woman asked, wide-eyed. "You look incredible." Emma smiled warmly. "Thank you. Life's quieter now." They chatted for a while, then the woman leaned in. "I heard what happened. Everyone has. And I just want to say you handled it with class. You didn't just survive them. You beat them." Emma nodded slowly. "I didn't do it to beat anyone," she said. "I just stopped letting people win who never respected me in the first place." Later that evening she sat on her balcony watching the sun melt into the sea. Her lawyer had called earlier with a final update. The court had officially closed the prenup dispute. The Andersons had no remaining legal claims against her. "It's over," her lawyer had said. "All of it." Emma had whispered, "Thank you," and ended the call with tears in her eyes, not of sadness but of release. She had fought so hard to keep her soul from being drowned in someone else's expectations. Now, every wave that crashed along the shore sounded like applause for her silence, her planning, her strength. She thought about everything she'd endured. The pointed glances, the fake brunches, the endless performance of being enough for people who never saw her. The weight of that house. The coldness in Nicholas's voice. Olivia's smug smiles. Richard's condescending questions. And how it had all crumbled, not because she screamed or exploded, but because she watched, listened, waited, and then walked away with everything they swore she would never have. Power, wealth, freedom, respect. Not given but earned. Not through their world but despite it. Sometimes she got messages. From old classmates. From distant cousins. From women who had seen her story in court records or whispered circles. "How did you do it?" they'd ask. "How did you know when it was time to leave?" She always replied the same way. "The moment they made you feel small, you were never supposed to stay." She didn't tell them about the long nights. Or the quiet tears. Or the loneliness that sat on her chest like a brick during those first few months. Because survival stories aren't always loud. Sometimes, they look like a quiet woman with a steel spine sipping wine on her balcony. On the 1-year anniversary of her divorce, Emma threw a party. Just a few close friends. Wine. Laughter. Good music. No drama. No pretense. When someone raised a toast and asked what she had learned most from everything, she clinked her glass and said, "That no one gets to decide my value except me." And as the sun set behind her beachfront home, she realized she wasn't just free, she was finally seen. Not as Nicholas's wife. Not as the girl who got lucky. But as a woman who took back her name, her life, and her story. And this time it was hers alone. No prenup required. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the story, kindly help us to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more of this.